and you go right back to sleep.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, so circle what, okay, so some places teach, and this was one of the ones that when I was taking class and there were people like, oh no, what I tell them to do. Some people say answer the whole entire test in your book and then at the end transfer all your answers. That stresses me out to no end. Because number one, what if you're bubbling all those answers and you get off and you've bubbled the wrong thing and then you gotta go through and erase them all?
And what if you get to the end of the test and nothing's bubbled in? And then
Right,
you're
and
not
they
running
call
out of
time, exactly.
You're trying to go really fast, and you end up marking something
Yes.
wrong, even though you answered it right.
To me, there's too much that can go wrong with that. So my strategy, what I like to recommend is like, say, we're on page 42 and 43, there's 12 questions. What I like to suggest is answer your 12 questions. And then before you turn that page, go to your bubble sheet, you know, you're answering 12. So you know where you're starting, where you're ending. So that way you can go, okay, this, and this. So that way you're not taking time going from here to here to here to here in between each question. You're going through your questions as quickly as you can, bubble super fast, and then turn the page. Exactly. And it's a crazy thing to think about seconds, but it is. I mean, seconds matter here.
So like if they call 5 minutes, should we just immediately start going straight over?
That's what we'll talk about that. Yes, because we're going to be talking about the letter of the day on guessing. We're going to have a guessing strategy. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So what I recommend is they call 5 minutes and you go ahead and you bubble in with your letter of the day. Okay. And like I said, we'll talk about that more in just a minute. You bubble in with your letter of the day, and then you use those 5 minutes to go, okay, now I'm at this one. I'm going to go check and see, oh no, that one is this. And I change my answer. And then I go, oh no, this one's this. And I change my answer. Or if you're finished and they call 5 minutes, that's when you go back and go, you know, I put a question mark by that one because I wasn't real sure and I've got time. I want to go back and check that question.
So it's also something you need to do. If you're not quite sure, question mark it.
Yes. And then
at
if
the
you have
end,
time, go back and look at it. So, we'll go ahead and get to that in just a minute. So, so the first thing I said, read the directions while you're doing your practice test or before you do a practice test. Don't do it the day of the test. Bubbling.
5 minutes just to read the directions.
Yeah, because then you go, no, wait a minute. What does it say I need to do? Okay, what? Okay. So
at this point,
It's a lot of
the
words.
directions, it's all the same.
yes, yes.
You know what I noticed on both times, it's very rare that it's no change.
We're going to talk about that. It is actually a statistical measure.
Of how often it happens.
Like it's the exact same statistic.
Every single test. Yep.
Did they know that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they design it that way. And
Okay.
actually, when I was taking my classes, and I'll just go ahead and tell y'all. So statistically, okay, so if there's 4 answer choices, if you've got, so the only one that has 5 answer choices is math. Okay, so in math, there's A, B, C, D, E, and then of course there's what, F, G, H, J, K, or whatever. So obviously, like A, B, C, D, E, like A corresponds with F. So when I say letter of the day, I'm saying A and F or whatever. But statistically, on the questions that have 4 answer choices, statistically, 25% are going to be A, 25% are going to be B, 25% will be C, and 25% will be D. So, and then with math, 20% will be each of them.
I figured it was randomly generated.
It is not random. It is statistically put out there. So that's why the kid bubbled, because he said, hey, if I get 25% of my questions right. So let's look at this for a minute.
Yeah, you could just put one.
I was saying it could be completely randomized because that it would take computers too long.
Yeah.
Right. So think about,
there has to be some kind of process or
what's 25% of 75? My camera's recording. Somebody,
30. No.
no,
wait.
that's gonna be half roughly.
25,
What's 75 times 0.25?
18.
18. Okay. If I come over here, I can bubble C on everything, and I'm getting a 10. Okay. So you could go through and bubble and get a 10, and you don't answer a single question. You don't read anything. You don't answer a single question. It's not going to get you far.
out of the whole 75.
No. I'm saying like because you said that was what, 18 questions. That means I have to have 18. That would mean 18 of them should be letter C.
Yeah, but if you're really trying to go for no misses, that's kind of.
Right. So if I got 18 of them, though, that gives me a scaled score of a 10 for the English section, is what I'm saying. So that's the kid who went through and bubbled,
So he most likely got a 10,
probably.
unless you.
Whereas you go, yeah, that's why you don't randomly guess. That's why you don't go, on this one, I'm going A, and on this one, I'm going C, and on this one, I'm going D, because statistically, you have a better chance of guessing correctly if you guess the same answer on your guesses.
What's the lowest score you've ever heard of?
Not purposely the person knowing all the answers.
Right.
Choosing wrong, but I'm talking about like. Just.
I feel like a 0 would be just as impressive as 36.
Well, my thing is like a 0, like you cannot get a 0. The minimum you can get is a 1. And that's if you got nothing to 1 right. Okay, so that's like you get nothing right, you got a 1.
Yeah.
So I have seen I want to say a 12. I've seen some 12s and 14s. And sometimes again, it's the kind of thing where you don't know, was it somebody stayed out too late the night before? Did somebody just when they were answering, did they get off on their bubble sheet and now they've answered everything is off on the wrong thing, and so they've messed that
I
up?
missed one and did it, like, I just skipped a row and then I went to the below, so I was answering the next problem for this answer. and
Yeah.
I had to go back and waste so much time.
Yeah, and so I mean,
Okay.
there are all kinds of things that can contribute to a score, and that's why a lot of times there's so much that goes into taking the test that's not just knowledge based and sitting down and taking a test. It's your rest. It's did you eat? It's did you get into a fight with somebody on the way there and you're emotionally upset because you were late and mama yelled at you?
Mindset, everything.
Yeah, did somebody cut you off on the road on the way? Did you get there and realize you forgot your license and you had to run back home?
That's why I never drive myself. Even though I can
Yeah.
drive myself, I always have my mother. drive
Yep.
me.
Yep, because there's so many things that can kind of flip the switch and make it a bad situation.
And also because I'm usually exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't drive.
Exactly.
I'm going through enough emotional distress.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Like maybe 8 minutes away, and I was
You're
devastated.
done. Yeah, it's a brain drain. Okay, so the last one on page 5 is each section has different strategies that we'll be talking about. Turn to page 6 in your packet. Using answer choices and intelligent guessing. This is what we were kind of talking about. So it says there are several ways to use the answer choices you were given on a section if you're unsure of the correct answer. The first thing you want to do is that when you see a wrong answer, you eliminate it. If you know that it's an answer that is wrong, you can mark it out. But I have a note on here now, not to say that I really want y'all to be gambling or betting or anything, but this was just something that I heard. I was like, yeah, that's kind of true. Make sure you'd be willing to bet $5 that it's not correct. Okay, so if you go, I know without a doubt 100% that this is the wrong answer, mark it out. But if you go, I'm not real sure, you don't want to mark out a right answer thinking it's wrong. So if you're willing to say, you know what, I'd bet $5, because like betting $1 is kind of like, man, if I lost it, it's no big deal. But $5 you might think about twice. You know, it's not a whole lot, but it's also not, you know, it's not terribly significant, but it's more than I'd want to just throw away. I wouldn't want to put it in the garbage can. So when you're eliminating non-answers, you go, okay, yeah, I'm sure about that one. I'm marking that one out. Because also thinking about, we just said that if 4 answer choices, and I've got 25% chance of getting the right answer, if I've eliminated a non-answer, now I've gone to 33% chance that I've gotten it right. And especially if I mark out 2 non-answers, I've got a 50-50 chance. Okay, so eliminating non-answers is a strategy to use that you can go, hey, I know this is not the answer. I know this is not the answer. Now, I might not be sure about these 2, but elimination can help you increase your chances of getting the right answer.
That's a strategy. I was taught the little bit of tutoring.
Yeah.
I did before the first test,
Yeah.
first time I took it. Actually, it was only math,
Uh-huh.
and it was from Mr. Wright, and
Okay.
it was good.
Yeah.
It's just I felt like that. For one, I was extremely stressed. I had a horrible mindset.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever
I
had
was
that
shaking
much
when I
anxiety in my
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
And so I got in there and I looked at the answers later. I was like, some of this stuff is easy. Like I know this.
Right.
And I missed it or I
Yeah.
skipped over it or
It's your
something.
fear and anxiety. And one of the things to also, to think about, this test does not define you as a person. Okay. And I think so often, especially in our country, we let testing define us. and whether I am good or not, I'm smart or not, based on my test scores. There are some people that are terrible test takers. They are wonderfully smart people, but they are terrible test takers. So it's the kind of thing where a lot of this, we get in that whole, I've got to do so well, I've got to do great, I've got to do great. And then I've stressed so much over that, and I've let that mess me up. So like I said, that's why my encouragement is, you know what to expect. Be calm and confident, because you know you can do this stuff. And so, but so often that mindset can really throw us off in the beginning.
I did that, I took the PSAT
Mhm.
and my ACT equivalent, I took it in 8th grade, and my ACT equivalent was like 28.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm a 28 or above instant. And then I
Right.
got in there, it was not anywhere near.
Yeah,
28.
you're
I was
expecting,
like,
hey, this is
yeah.
where, and you're like,
They,
well,
they say equivalent, that's merely
Yeah.
based on how much knowledge they think you possess
and how much they think you'll get.
and think you could get. So
Yeah.
many other factors go into it than just knowing the material. I mean,
absolutely,
it's-
absolutely.
especially with science and reading. You may
Yes.
know, or like science and English, you may know literary rules and you may know
Mhm.
things about science, but when you get in there and you're trying to decipher whole paragraphs and
In,
decipher
in,
charts,
in a
it's
certain
like-
amount of time.
it's like,
And then you throw
whoa.
that time constraint on it. It's
See, that's the
different.
one thing I didn't realize about science the first time. It was
Mhm.
like, oh, this is all charts, and I have to sit here and I have to decipher.
Mhm.
I thought science would be so easy. And I was like, I've
Right.
never seen anything like this
Yeah.
in my life.
Mhm.
Now, there are some things you do have to know.
Yes.
Some things about
Certain things
periodic
about-
tables, certain
Yes,
chemical
certain, we're
compounds.
gonna look at the different topics that you need to know for biology, for chemistry, for whatever, we'll have a list of those. We're gonna talk about them, and then that way it's gonna, like I said, it's the kind of thing where you're gonna go, hey, I know this check, I know this check, and I don't remember that. So you're gonna have to decide, am I gonna put in the time to learn it or to remember it? Because a lot of these things, like I said, you've been building this knowledge since junior high. So, it's the kind of thing where you can't come in and do a prep class, or you can't really prep for it and go, hey, I'm going to get, let's say, from 7th grade to 12th grade is 5-6 years. So you can't go, hey, I'm going to get that much knowledge within 9 weeks. That's not doable. So anyway, it's just kind of helping you to remember some things or whatever. Plugging in answer choices to see which one's correct. You can do that with English and math. Like if it's something where they're saying, and it's an underlined word and you're not sure what to do, you can look at those answer choices and plug that in. If it says, hey, try this one, you can read it like that and go, oh, no, that doesn't work. Oh, no, that doesn't work. So that also helps you by plugging in the answers they give you. Number one, it kind of gives you a direction, helps you know. If you look at all your answer choices and they all have a comma in them, I know it's testing a comma rule. Okay. So then I'll look at it and go, hey, what is the rule? Oh yeah, it's this. So if it's this, okay, great. But I also have to look at how it applies to what is already on the paper, what comes before that blank and what comes after it, to make sure I've done it correctly as a whole.
That's easily my biggest weakness, is like knowing grammar rules
Uh-huh.
and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm
And we'll look
so-
at a list of all the things that you need to.
Situation.
Yeah,
I can
and
remember.
yeah.
I can remember grammar rules.
Mhm.
That's
Punctuation.
probably what
I
it
get
is.
mixed up.
Yep.
It's
Yeah. And
Like
same thing.
semicolons and stuff like.
Yep. We'll talk about, I'll be giving you guys a complete list of everything, each skill that's going to be tested. And again, like I said, you can go through it and go, I'm good. Ooh, no, that's something that I have trouble with. And we'll kind of talk through those. But the same thing with math. You've got 5 answer choices. And again, in math, we'll go more deeply into it, where basically A, B, C, D, E. Okay. The answers go in order from least to greatest. Okay, so when they give you answer choices, like if you had -3, 0, 3, and then 5, whatever it is, they go in order. So letter A, answer, is going to be the smallest of all my answer choices. So then when I talk about plugging in the numbers, one of the things I'm going to recommend is, hey, if you're not sure what to do, you plug in C, try to plug that in. And if that number is not enough, then you know that you can eliminate A, B, and C, and your answer is going to be
literally brought it down
D
to
or E.
50-50.
And then, or if you say, hey, C is my answer, you go on and answer it. If you say C is not the answer, but it's too big, then I bump to A and B.
So if it's literally directly in the middle of the other answers and you plug it in and it's either 4, it has to be.
If
either
you know
one
it's
of-
off, yes,
that literally
then that,
eliminates 3 of them.
there you go. So that's a strategy to use, especially when it's something that you're not quite sure of. So that's with math. Again, I talked about the letter of the day. The next one is choosing letter of the day, either A and F, B and G, C, H, or D, J. So you have a better chance statistically if you guess consistently.
So technically, like going back to the statistics of 25%,
Mhm.
shouldn't you be able to look at like the end of the thing when you're looking at what all your answers are? Shouldn't you be able to see if you've gotten it for the majority?
If it
correct,
looks
it
kinda
should be, like,
balanced,
balanced.
Yeah, if you look and you feel kind of balanced, but if you look at one, you see you've got a whole bunch of something and a whole little of something, and but again, it's the kind of thing where if it's at the end of the test, what can you do? But it does help you that as you're going, you can kind of look and see, does it look balanced or not? And that goes back to the no change thing with English. Okay, 25% of my answers, because go ahead and if we look at the English test, starting on,
So if you just absolutely don't know and you don't have any no changes yet, you should most likely put in no change.
if you haven't gotten a no change, because if you look at the English test, look at what letter A is or letter A and F, look at this. So if you flip through pages 42, 43, 44, what is the answer for A and F?
Oh, yeah.
A and F is always no change.
It's on every single question.
Every single one. So 25% of your answers are going to be no change. So that's what I was saying. It's the kind of thing where
So
it's equally an answer just like every other letter.
it's 18.
Yeah.
There's gonna be at least 18 no
Yeah.
change questions.
You would think they would like make no change like a different one besides.
Yep. Yep. So it's the kind of thing where, no change could just as easily be the answer as, something else.
The ACT in Las Vegas, that's so much fun.
Exactly. All right. So number 4, make notes and mark it up. It is perfectly acceptable to write in the book. The more you write, the better. As you're reading, if you see a keyword that's something that's super important, circle it, underline it, star it, whatever you need to do.
Like, you mean like if I'm like right here, I could like, and I thought this was an important word, I could just like underline anything
Yeah.
on this.
Oh, absolutely. And if it's the kind of thing where if you're reading and you recognize a punctuation mistake or you recognize a mistake, a lot of times as you're reading and you go, hey, I don't have subject verb agreement here. If it said Bob ran out to her car. Well, I mean, these days, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, you would know, hey, my pronouns don't match here. Okay. So it's the kind of thing where, or if it says, she went to,
I wonder when that will get in lower testing.
they will not. Now, ACT stays away from anything political, anything, whatever. So who knows what anyway. But anyway, but it's the kind of thing where subject verb agreement. If it says, I know, seriously.
It'd be so funny to get it wrong. Bob ran out the bird car
Yeah,
was correct.
well, it could be. But anyway, so it's the kind of thing where as you're reading, if you find a mistake, a lot of times predicting or being able to recognize the mistake, then when you look at the question, you go, hey, I know what that answer is because it did not have a comma here and it needs one, or it has a comma here and there's not a pause. I don't need a comma here. So a lot of times as you're reading through and looking at it, you might actually know what the correct answer is, and then you look at your answer choices. Okay. But skipping it, let's say that you had no clue and you used your letter of the day and you marked it, put a question mark by it, circle the number, do something to where when if you have time at the end and you're going through, you never, ever, 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 ever want to lay your head down and be done. Don't be done. Use your time. Use every second of your time. That's right. Until they call time, don't put your pencil down. Okay. So, let's say you finished and you've got 5 or 10 minutes left. That's when you go back and go, hey, okay, I'm going back. This one has a question mark. I'm going to go back and work on that one. So identify the ones that you guessed on so you can go back if you have time. Okay. And having a consistent method, like I said, a star, a question mark, circle it, whatever you want to do to mark it. Try working on that as you do your practice test so you get into the habit of it. Okay. The next one is skip and come back. It says spending too much time on any one question can greatly affect your pacing. So again, that's what we just talked about. If you're going and you're hung up on something, even if it's something you go, oh my gosh, I know this, I should know this, but you're still stuck, guess and move on. Okay. Don't waste the time. If you find that you've spent, 30 seconds on something that shouldn't take you that long, guess and move on. All right. Learning from your mistakes. this is, to me, one of the worst parts about ACT prep is because like you have to like learn from your mistakes. As we do practice tests, one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do, it is not a requirement, it is a personal individual choice. It depends on you and what you're trying to do, okay? What I recommend is that you keep track of what you missed and why you missed it, okay? You missed something and it was a punctuation error. So when you write it down after you're, like when we do some practice stuff and I tell you to score it, you go, hey, I missed this one. And so you've got a book. And so for the English section, you've written down, it could be because of this, it could be because of this or this. So you mark down, I missed this one because of punctuation, because commas in a series or whatever it is. And in that way, if you start seeing that, hey, all the questions I'm missing are in this category, that's where you know you need to focus on brushing up your skills. You don't need to waste time studying for something that you already know how to do. So you're able to eliminate and focus in more on your direct study or brush up or whatever you're doing. But if you don't learn from your mistakes, then you're just going to repeat them over and over again. Again, same with, especially with math, you know, especially with the math, there's going to be differences in things that you know how to do, things you should know how to do, and things that you've never learned to do. You don't want to learn content for ACT if you're not trying to get a 36 and you don't need a perfect score, you're just working for your target score. If you can not worry about the higher level math, then you just guess and move on.
I had a lot of like pre-calculus
Uh-huh.
questions and I hadn't taken it yet. And I was like,
That's
Yeah.
one pre-cal, and for me,
And some
on the
trig.
first one, binomials. I was actually really good at trig. I almost didn't miss a trig question, but that's because that was at the point where I was taking algebra 2, and now, yeah, we were doing a lot of trig
Yeah.
right at that area at the time. And then, geometry was good. Our basic algebra was good. It was just when I got into, logarithms,
Logs, matrices, things like that.
matrices.
I'd never even done any matrices. And I'm like, what is this? And I just stared at it.
And even some of them.
So in that situation, you guess and move on. You don't waste those seconds staring and going, what in the
And I've
world
even
is
learned
this?
those things.
Yeah.
I just don't
Yeah.
remember them.
And that's okay. You know, you've got the freedom to make a mistake, or you've got the freedom just to skip it and not even worry about it.
I was
Okay.
like, I don't use matrices, like
No.
in physics
Uh-huh.
and other science classes and stuff like that. I'll use algebra.
Yeah.
There's actually situations where you use algebra, and that's why I remember it so well. But when you get into things where it's directly
Right.
relating to math and like straight up
Something
math,
more
and
specific,
you don't use it in anything.
Don't waste your
extremely
time.
applicable. It's
Yep.
like, okay, I feel like if there's going to be a lot of questions on this, yeah, I need to know it, but I don't want to waste all my time trying to learn these things, especially if they're really hard.
Yeah.
And then waste all my time and then
Yeah.
Like
not pay
adding
off.
matrices is fine, but like if they're like asking you to like multiply it, I'm probably not even.
Yeah.
Right. It's,
Yeah.
That takes so.
Where are we
long.
on time?
We are
It's like-
20
Okay,
minutes.
cool. We'll just kind of slide through these. Identifying tracking mistakes, like I said, keeping track. This is on page 7 of your packet. Keeping track as you're working through your material, you're able to look and see where you're losing points. So a notebook, a spreadsheet, whatever it is. But one of the things, there are 3 impulses I have listed here that when you see that you've missed something, our usual impulse, sometimes you go, well, man, you focus on what you did well and you ignore what you didn't do well. Okay. And you go, well, I missed that. So be it. You know, that doesn't help you to get it right the next time. Disregarding questions you got wrong because they were just careless mistakes. Okay. If you go, oh, well, that was just a careless error. Again, if you don't look at what it was and go ahead and think about, okay, well, what's the way to correct it? If you just chalk it up to a careless error, then are you going to make that same careless error next time? And then the last one is focusing on the fact that you got things wrong. But then you're like, oh man, it's just because I'm stupid and I can't do it. No, you know, whatever. That doesn't help you either. That's not going to help you do better. Okay. What's going to help you is when you go through, and I've got these questions listed. Which questions am I getting wrong? What types of questions am I getting wrong? Do I lose more points on a certain type of passage? So as we're going through on the literary narrative, is that the one? Am I missing more points on that type of reading passage versus the science summary? And one of the things, there will be some things that we talk about when we get into reading. Some people say, hey, pick your favorite passage and do it first. That freaks me out, because that means you're going to turn a couple of pages and read one section before you go back and read the other one. Again, if that works for you, fantastic. But the day of the test is not the time to figure that out. Do I lose points at the end of the section because I run out of time? Is that something that you're finding, that as you're practicing, are you running out of time? Do you lose points in particular because of content knowledge? So again, it's the kind of thing where you want to make sure that not only do you do your practice test and you check it, but you want to evaluate why you missed what you missed, so you can learn from it. So then you can categorize your mistakes. If you go ahead and make a question mark every time you guessed on something, if you skipped it or guessed it or whatever it was, and you make a mark and you go back and look at your answers and you go, hey, look, I guessed on that one, I got it right. Or I skipped that one and I got it right. Or, hey, look, that was one I guessed on and I missed it. So now you can go, well, hey, this is what you need to do. Also, if you go, man, I thought I knew that one, I was 100% on that one. Again, looking and saying, I missed that one, but why was it that I missed it? Okay.
Now, even though it was from 2 years ago, I still have our packets and everything that we ordered extra. But I got the same score both times.
Yeah.
My score didn't change at all. It was the same. It was like.
Did you do anything different from test 1 to test 2?
I did tutoring.
Okay.
For test 1. I didn't do anything for test 2.
Okay.
I did absolutely no extra anything. And I was like, oh, I was basically counting it up to, okay, I was just stressed. But now at that point, it was the beginning of last semester. It was the end of last semester in December. And at that point, I had been away from
you're out of the classroom.
I was away from a stabilized math, like I wasn't in an algebra or anything. So my score, I noticed that I struggled a bit more than that because I had been out of doing direct math for a while.
And when you don't use it, you lose it.
Right. And then there were other areas, and I was like, man, if I had only studied, and then I thought to myself, what could I have studied?
Right.
Like,
and we're going to talk about some things. Yeah. And we're going to talk about some things. I'm going to give y'all some stuff to, and we're going to have a list of formulas to look at, things that you need to study, and making note cards if you want to. Making flashcards is a great way, because a lot of these things, if you kind of get that picture in your head and then you've got the mental image, then when you see a question back about it. But we'll go through and break it down and look. Understanding the reasons you missed a question. Nearly all mistakes fall into one of 4 categories: timing, question comprehension, so not understanding what the question's asking, content issue because you don't know the information, or just a mistake, a careless error. So then I break down, timing going on. So these will be some things that you can kind of look through. So for timing, if you flip over to page 8 in your packet, you can see where if you break down the English, 75 questions in 45 minutes, that means you've got 36 seconds per question. Now, obviously, if you sit there and try to figure out that amount of time, you're going to waste your time counting time. Okay. Math, 60 minutes, 60 questions means 60 seconds per question, or 1 minute per question. Now, there are going to be some that you can work in less than a minute, and there's going to be some that might take more than a minute.
Right,
that's just the average. Yeah. Reading, 40 questions, 35 minutes. That means you've got 52 seconds per question, and the same with science. So one of the things that I'm going to be encouraging you to do is say, okay, if it's the test time, and let's say you start reading at 10 o'clock, I mean, it'll be earlier than that, or let's say 9 o'clock you start reading, you know that you're going to have 35 minutes. Half of 35 is going to be what, about 18, 19 minutes, roughly 18, 17 and a half. So you know that, hey, if I've got a watch on, if there's a clock in the room, I know that I need to be halfway done with reading in 17 minutes. So that's a better pace of your time to look and go, hey, I've got 17 minutes. And then when you get to when you get halfway through your questions, when you get on number 20 and you look at your watch and go, hey, I'm ahead, I'm doing okay, or whatever. Colin?
How is it that you have 40 questions in reading and science, and you have 35 minutes in reading and 55 minutes in science, and you still have the same amount of time per question?
That's a good question. It looks like I've got a typo there. So let's see.
I was like,
yeah, I don't think mathematically that does not work out right. Something is wrong with that. Reading and science are both 40 questions and 35 minutes. So some reason, mark that out. Thank you for catching that. 35 minutes. And I just wrote 33. I marked it out and wrote 33. That's not it either.
30.
35. Yeah, 35 minutes for
They
each
both
of
have
those.
40 questions.
They both have 40 questions, 35 minutes. Thank you. Like I said, y'all gotta call me on this stuff when y'all, because there's crazy things. All right, question comprehension. So, always make sure you know what the question is asking. Okay, so when you answer the question, if you kind of look back and go, did I answer the question? Because sometimes there might be an answer choice that related to the passage, but it didn't answer the question that you were asked. Okay, it was in the passage, so you go, oh, that looks familiar, that must be the answer, because that's directly from the passage, but it doesn't answer the question you were asked. Okay. Careless errors in reading. We're going to be talking about words like except and not and things like that. So a lot of times that can be a super easy mistake, because it says, tell me all the things that blah, 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 except something, and you didn't, and you're like, oh, I thought I was just supposed to tell these things. I missed the except part. Math, solving for the wrong value. Okay, maybe you're solving something and you go, oh, here's the answer, but you were actually supposed to answer for this or whatever. English, choosing no change too much or not choosing it enough. Okay.
I didn't choose any. I think I did it twice.
Okay. All right.
So that's like a lot.
I didn't know the statistics of it though. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
I figured there wouldn't be any just because like
Yeah.
most of the
You just
tests I
expect
take
it to always have something. Yeah. Usually if the teacher puts, they just put it in there to trick you.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be.
Most of the time it's right. What's it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The rare occasion that he actually does a multiple choice test.
Well, like,
So-
I mean, like I don't know, but there was like one test in physics that there was like one problem, and I was very confused. It wasn't multiple choice, but it was like you weren't even supposed to solve the problem, and it was like
Yeah, he does do that. It's
Yeah.
not solve
that was
the
in
problem.
pre-cal, not physics.
He's done it in physics. It's not solve the problem with information I give you.
Right.
It's one time
problem
is
not
what
solved.
information is left out, or can
Right.
this be solved?
Right.
And
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, if it says, can this be solved? It's usually either no
Mhm.
or no and tell me why.
Right. Right.
That's like something I carried on just because like you get so used to like teacher specific
Mhm,
habits, and then you're
mhm.
like, oh, this will do it. It's like this is a
Yeah.
computer.
Exactly. So on page 9, it talks about your plan for ACT prep not only needs to include how you will prepare for the next step, but also test, but also how long. Okay. So like I said, you guys have individual needs, individual plans, whatever. So it's the kind of thing that this is kind of taking into account how much outside time are you going to take outside of our class? How much additional time through the week are you going to plan for it? So the things you've got to take into account. How busy is your schedule? Can you reasonably spend however many minutes, hours per day studying or whatever? Or if this is the time and you say, hey, you know what, I want this to be my last one, so I'm going to buckle down, and I know that I'm going to take 15 minutes per night to work on it. Or I know that on Sunday afternoons, I've got this whole big block of time, and I'm going to devote this amount of time to that. Or if it's, whatever it is, such and such night a week, I don't have practice, so that's going to be the night I really work. But everybody's got an individual schedule, and you've got to figure that out. Y'all both taken it, so y'all know about registering and sending scores to college. When you register, the ACT.org, you've already got your profile set up, so you just go in there, Colin.
So I've heard like if you take it at certain places, it just for writing all your stuff down correctly. Some places it actually values more. So like if you write all your address and stuff down correctly, it'll give you 5 points in some places, and other places.
You are not getting any points for filling in for that information. You're only getting
Yeah.
points for right answers. Okay, so the questions that you're answering, the 40 questions.
No. I'm
Or-
saying like for the like filling out your information, like writing your name. So I know there's a big joke.
But I'm saying you don't get points for writing your name.
Yeah.
The
That's
only
what-
points you're
you don't.
scoring
It's just
is on the
like,
content. Yeah, you're not getting points for putting your
I know,
name and your
that's
address
true.
and your school
Yeah.
and all that stuff. No, you're not getting any points for that. There's a lot of things. And then also there's another thing that a lot of people talk about. If I go take it at this certain part of town versus this sort of
Yeah.
part of town, it's the same tests. Okay, they have the same series. So like in April,
There was a
when-
joke about my dad's school. If you showed up, you got a 15.
Yeah.
automatic.
yeah. And also they say if you take it either in super urban places or super Okay, you should know this information. And so what they're doing is they're looking at what are the norms across the country for what students. Okay. My daughter, she had to go to the doctor today to get a physical for softball. And so she said, I brought my physical to practice. What am I supposed to do? And I'm like, no, I got to upload it in the system. Just bring it home. She's like, "Oh." So, but she had called me back twice. So I was like, what does she need? I just want to make sure she's not on the side of the road somewhere. She plays at Briarwood. So she's a junior. Huh? Not me. Oh, her softball, yeah, she does pitching with Kaylee, Romano's mom, Carrie Foster is her pitching coach, and so, anyway, yes. Yeah.
I've heard your voice.
There was a night we had gone to a lesson and Colin and Kaylee had just gotten back from hunting. And I said, what are y'all doing out here? And so he was like,
hey, Miss Jennifer, and I'm like, who's Jennifer?
he's like, you're not in the right environment.
I didn't even say anything till like she was like, from me to you, and I was like, oh, that's who that is.
It's hard to connect when you're not in the right place. I remember.
Like when Mr.
Uh-huh. And your worlds collide and you're like, wait a minute. I remember running into a kid.
I see his wife all the
Yeah.
time. But then he comes in sometimes. I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is not correct.
I think I was at like a Dollar Tree or Dollar something when I was teaching elementary school, and one of my kids, like a kid from the school, saw me and it was kind of like, what are you doing here? Like, you're not allowed to be out of the school. Like, you're supposed to be there. Why, right, you're here.
Every time I see you, you're in.
Yeah. You're not supposed to be here. But like I said, so on page 9, we can see test dates, registration deadlines, and late fees, or late dates, okay? So the April 17th test date, you need to be registered by March 12th if you're not registered already. So you know that's your deadline. If you register between the 13th and the 26th, you'll get a late fee. But just know that because of the lack of testing over COVID and places that don't, they'll have a test plan and then they shut it down. The number of people trying to take tests has been up so high, and there haven't been as many test centers. So it's kind of harder to get in. I think it's doing better now, but usually it will book up. And so like my daughter, when she took her second one, her first one was at Pelham. The second one, she had to take it at Talladega because there were no places around in the Birmingham area. So my in-laws live in Talladega, so she took it up there, but it was the kind of thing. So yeah, if you've already got yours, and then you kind of have a.
At the beginning or at the end of last month.
Okay, yeah. So then you kind of get your pick of places where you want to take it. If you say this school because I know the environment, or I know I'm going to have friends there, or whatever it is.
I was probably going to go like either where you went or where Daniel went, because I was so stressed out just because I'm sitting there. I might go. I don't know where I'm going to go. I haven't booked it.
Yeah.
Sitting there like a break and stuff, even before, and I'm standing there and everybody's like in the group, so I'm like,
Yeah, and you're like by
and
yourself,
they take your phone
and then
away, and they're like,
I've never
Yeah.
seen anybody I've known.
Yeah.
do an ACT.
it stressed me out because I was just like,
You
so
do feel
uncomfortable.
it's actually it's a psychological. You feel very isolated.
I remember I took it at Sanford, and I remember being so overwhelmed because I'm like, this is and you don't know anybody, and what if I get lost, and what if, Yeah. Yeah, so you've got somebody there. Yep.
They're
So-
pretty good. Their classrooms are pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pelham, I have close friends that went to Pelham or have kids that go to Pelham, and as soon as I told them what the classrooms were like, they knew exactly what it was. Like, oh yeah, that's the older part of the building because they've done new construction. Or that's with nicer classrooms in different parts of the building.
Yeah, when Cameron came in, she was describing, she's like, I went down this hall, and then we were like, yeah, that's where the whatever. And so, and
concrete walls, land paint,
Exactly.
window, prison.
The broken lights flickering. Somebody with a mask standing in the hallway. The big
scary.
machete.
Yeah. I'm just here for my test. So one of the things that when you're registering, you can either choose to send scores, go ahead and send scores. I think you can send up to 4 free per test. So you can put in those 4 schools, or if you say, hey, I'm not quite ready to send my scores, I would rather wait until later. You just have to pay for it. So you can, if you do it when you sign up, you get to send it to 4 for free. Or afterward, you can send your scores, but it's $13 per score that's
See,
sent.
that's one bad thing. I already know I'm going to Jeff State
Right.
the first 2
Yeah.
years. And they're applicating for open.
Yeah.
But most other colleges are closed.
Yeah.
They closed February, like Auburn scholarship application closed
Mhm.
February 1st, Mississippi State
Yeah.
closed February 1st.
Mhm.
And so the only worry I have about taking it is in April is that I don't want to wait too long to put in my scholarship
Right.
application. But at the same time, if I take the ACT again and I get a much better score
Right.
from a 21, that's gonna greatly increase
Exactly.
my chances.
Mhm.
What are you trying to do?
Yep.
Construction management and building science. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's the thing about that major is
Mhm.
that there aren't that many colleges
Right.
that do it.
Exactly.
Auburn and Mississippi State are the two
Yeah.
places that have significant 4-year
Mhm.
programs. Mississippi
Mhm.
State's
Mhm.
it is. I've known quite a few people that have gone there, but I
Yeah.
have one close friend that
Yeah.
goes there.
Mhm.
I would be going in, like, it would be my 3rd year in college. I would have done my first 2 years, and when I'm going in, he'll be like in his senior year. So it'd be like 1 year
Yeah.
of overlap.
All right, and then the last section I have on here is about test day, and y'all have been there, done that, so here's a couple of little tips. The night before your test, get plenty of sleep, make sure you eat a good breakfast, not anything real sugary, you want some protein that's gonna carry you through. Yeah, eat something. Arrive to the test 30 minutes before
Where we in Pelham, like, you had to put it up against of a specific wall.
Okay,
And it
We
was like
put
you
ours
couldn't
under
you
our
couldn't
seat.
touch
okay,
it.
yeah,
And it told you get everything that you'll need for
Mhm.
the test out
Mhm.
now. Don't leave anything in there because once it starts, you will
yeah, you
not.
can't,
This, I mean, no matter what, you
Yeah.
will not be able to get that.
Had
Yeah.
everything on the table, and if you had a bag, it was under your seat, and you could not get it.
Right.
So different places will have different things. What I recommend is just a gallon Ziploc. And in there, you need a color copy of your admission ticket. That was something Cam said that the last test she went to, people had printed them out in black and white. And at first they were not gonna let them come in. And so, but then there were so many that had black and white pictures.
Do mine.
And so, so just do it in color, just to be on the safe side, because you don't want to get to a center and it's a place that says, no way, we won't let you in, you
The
know.
only reason they let me is because I had like my permit and something with it. I don't
Yeah.
remember. exactly.
That would make me
Yeah, that would be
extraordinarily upset.
absolutely. So print it in color.
Did they
Your,
make you take your mask off?
No, they
oh, to
made me-
check
They-
your ID
yeah,
or to
so
check
they
you.
made me take my mask off to make sure I didn't have notes. written on the inside. And I was
Oh.
like, that's a good idea. I didn't even
How
think
about
of
that?
All I had to do was pull it down real quick, keep looking at it. and
Okay.
I went in. What, that was the
Like,
thing
yeah.
though, I had to keep it on the entire.
Yeah,
And I
if you
had
pull it up over your eyes, they might be,
that
yeah, oh, and
need
they
to
pop.
read and they fall. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like,
Yes.
I wasn't able to wear them, so I'm sitting
I didn't
there,
have
I'm
mine
like,
over my
Yeah.
nose.
So your admission ticket, a photo ID, at least 2 good, number 2, I'm turning to page 11, 2 pencils with erasers. I was gonna say, the more the better. Yes,
She
yes.
bought like 2 packs and was like,
Yep.
this is enough. And I was like, I hope so.
Yep. So that's what I sent Cam. She had her Ziploc bag. She had all of her pencils. I even stuck a pencil sharpener in there. We had extra batteries for the calculator. We had tissues in case your nose runs. You got peppermints or cough drops in case you get, something.
Yeah.
What else do we have in there?
That was something. They had just put a chemical in there and it
Uh-huh.
was making everybody's noses run. Like
Yes.
the entire group. And the whole time everybody was going,
Mhm.
like every 5 seconds. And everybody's
Yes.
like looking around, people would start just
And
calling.
mine, I don't know what it was, but it sounded like every 10 minutes, somebody threw like a metal pole down one of the air ducts. It's just a crash.
Yeah,
I'm
just some noise.
like, what is going
Yeah.
on?
Your calculator, a water bottle, like just a bottle of water, a granola bar or something to eat during the break time, take a snack. And so I just send her with her Ziploc bag that has all her little stuff in it. And I think because it's clear, I think she can keep it under her desk. And then that way during break time, she can get her snack out and whatever. But so also a noiseless watch with no audible alarms. They will not let you have a smartwatch. So you can't have an Apple Watch or anything like that, just a regular watch, because some rooms will have a clock, but maybe it's not right. And then you're trying to figure out, but if you just have a watch, so that way you can kind of go, okay, halfway mark, you can, I can check in my watch and see.
Cross? Yes. Yeah, they had several of them, but it was at the church, so.
My
Yeah.
first one, the lady actually looked at the clock and it realized it wasn't running.
Uh-huh,
And she was like, well,
yeah.
and
That's
but
such
she
pretty
was
cool.
nice. She actually.
And some of them will
we-
put your
we
start
started
time on the
like 2
board.
minutes later,
Yeah.
and then she like took it down real
Yeah.
quick. She had extra battery. She put it in and
Yeah.
she went up to the right time,
That's good, yeah.
which is good.
They did a halfway time of 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, and then.
So they didn't do that
a
with
minute
us. They
left.
said 5
Yeah,
minutes,
yeah,
and that's all the
yeah.
warning you get.
That's the hard part, is different places do different things, so you just kind of have to have your plan on how
That's
you're
like
gonna
the
handle it.
nicest part about it, is 'cause like you could judge, like if it's
Yeah.
halfway or if you could
Yep.
judge.
Yeah, and see where you are. A sweater, sweatshirt, light jacket, something, just not knowing, especially right now, can be cold or it could be burning hot. Just layer then that way, or carry a layer with you that you can put on or take off if you need to. But then I just put test anxiety and mindset, and it says, do you know the difference between a good test taker and a bad test taker? And it's confidence, so a lot of times it's our confidence that makes us a good test taker, or our lack of confidence that makes us a bad test taker. That everybody's going to struggle at some point or another, but confidence is going to help you. And so it says, if you find that you're still anxious before the test, take a few minutes to write down your worries, or even think through breathing exercises, just whatever you can do to get yourself to calm down. And basically breathing exercises, you're just going to inhale for like a count of 8, and then maybe hold it for 2, and then exhale for a count of 8. And that just kind of gets your heart rate down, and you can kind of focus and everything like that.
That's
So
that's interesting, because I watched this documentary one time. It was talking about special forces snipers or
about the
Army Rangers.
sleeping.
Yes,
Yes.
about Navy SEALs on
Yes.
ships sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And they do, it's a special breathing exercise.
Yes,
that
my
that
son.
has to be taught, where it's like one helps you fall asleep,
Uh-huh.
like it's like slowly devoiding your brain of a certain amount of oxygen, and it is causing it to have to sleep in order to kind of like bring itself back. I think that's how they explained it.
I've never
And then snipers they take whole classes on breathing exercises, because the way you're supposed to do it is you're actually even supposed to hear your heartbeat, and in between beats that's like when you're supposed to pull those triggers.
Okay.
And like you have to slow your heart
Yeah.
rate down to a certain
Wow.
BPM, and
Yeah.
I do that
It's
at
crazy.
hunting. I'll like breathe out a couple times and then I'll go to shoot.
Right. That's what I do. I've recently picked up archery, and so I realized that there are like those little things of slowing your heart rate down, focusing before you actually pull, because what you're really supposed to do is you're supposed to pull, like if it's mine's a regular recurve, but with like a compound it's different, because
I would breathe in as I pulled, and then I'd let all my breath out, and then I'd shoot.
right, but with recurves it's like you have all the pressure on all the time, and so after several seconds your handle starts shaking, you can be off, whereas compounds you can keep it pretty
you can hold
fairly
it for a
still
long
for a long time. And so what I've learned is, okay, get all that focus, get it focused in before I actually pull, and then all I do is pull, see it for a second, and release.
Yeah.
And wherever it goes.
It's amazing, the whole breathing thing. My son, he had seen that thing about the watching, and that's what he said. He had actually tried to practice with it some sleeping. And I recently saw something, and I've done something where for a while I was waking up every night in the middle of the night around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and could not go back to sleep. And I started doing the breathing thing. And if you're consciously, and I would count, and I would purposely breathe in, and I would count, and then the next morning I would wake up and I'd be like, I just went right to sleep.
There was something that I saw, I don't remember, it was like a documentary about it, and like your brain, and if you purposefully just make your mind blank and you lay there long enough, you'll start itching and stuff, and it's your body trying to make sure you're awake or not, and then you'll just fall asleep immediately.
That's
But
crazy.
it's like hard to do it, because like some people, they'll just itch themselves or something, and then they're like
Well, and also realizing, I think a lot of that and taking control with the breathing and things like that, it's a way that you're telling your body that you are in control and you're not out of control and anxious and freaked out. And I think that's a lot of times going into the test, that's, we feel like the test is happening to us. We're not in control of the test is in control of us. So kind of switching that mindset is a huge part of it. And so anyway, so that's the end of today, just kind of getting our overview. We will start next week with English. Okay, so next week, the whole time will be on English, and then we'll do English for a little bit. I'll have to look and see how the sessions break down. But anyway, so we're going to be focusing on English next week. So you won't need your calculator next week. Just bring your binder, your book, something to write with. Like I said, if you want to stick this in your notebook so you've got them all. So at the end, you'll have everything kind of together.
So
Questions, comments, anything?
will we only be doing,
All right, bye, Daniel.
are there some tests that will only be doing